guys, welcome to Salesforce Minded. My name's Jen, and today I am going to do a tutorial for you on the use of permission set group and muting permission set within that group. Before I begin my tutorial, the very important topic to first bring up is the use of profile versus permission set and versus permission set group. So there was a recent release or announcement from Salesforce that starting spring of 2026, Salesforce will be deprecating all the permissions from profiles. And that means all the permissions will need to be managed within permission sets and permission set groups. I will link that announcement in my video so you can refer to it. But what that means is profiles will remain after that release to only allow you to use it for things like page layout assignments, app assignments, and things like that, and not be used to control user level permissions. And so with that in mind, it is ever so important for you as if you're the admin to an org, or if you're consulting your client, to start thinking about profile migration to permission sets and permission set groups. If you're starting a new org, this is the perfect time to start doing things the new way. So I wanted to show you a use case that is very, I guess, on trend with this use of permission set and permission set group, and just why this is something I find to be very useful and scalable as well. So before I begin, I'm actually logged in to my dev org, and in the dev org, they give you certain profiles. So there is already a sales profile and support profile. In the sales profile, what I have done is in the object settings, I stripped away access to opportunities. So there's no object level access. So if I click into it, I think this profile might have certain access because I didn't take a look, but this profile might already have access to certain objects, which then grant them some access to these, like maybe there's the ability, they have the permission to do forecasting, what have you. So there are certain things that are enabled with those settings, but for the most part, I've already stripped away object level access as well as most access to most of these fields. And this is the sales profile. I did the same thing in the support profile, and the reasoning for that is because I want to be able to control this in the permission set group and show you. So if I go to opportunity again, you'll see the same thing. So let me just quickly show you. And what I have done is I have created two permission set group. And a best practice here is aligning your permission set group with your persona. So what that means is if you have account executive as your user group, then you have a permission set group called account executive. And if you have support, then you have one for support. So however you want to break it up, but this is a very popular way of managing persona and permission set group. So I have created two different permission set group, one for support, one for account executive. And I also created one permission set called opportunity create, read, edit. And in this permission set, I will show you what I've done. In the opportunities object, I've granted the access to read, create, edit at the object level, as well as re-edit on fields. And the ones that you don't see enabled is things that you can't edit. For example, created by, and I think expected revenue might be a formula field. So for the most part, this permission set grants field and object level access. And what I have done is I have gone ahead and in each of these permission set group, I have assigned that permission set, opportunity, create, read, edit to it. So that was the account executive. If I go to support, it's the same one. So the nice part about permission set group is you have the ability to assign multiple permission sets to it. So all these multiple permission sets will make up the permission set group, and in each permission set group, you have the ability to assign users to it. So I haven't done any assignment, but you can manage your assignment here, and whoever gets assigned in this permission set group gets access to all the to get access to objects and fields and apps that are defined in your permission set group, which is really nice because from a management standpoint, you no longer have to scour each profile to see what all is granted, right? It allows you to be very granular. So you saw the way I named my permission set. I named it object name, access. So I called it opportunity, create, read, edit. You could have one for case, create, read, edit, or lead, read, edit, what have you. So you can be very granular with this, and from a support and maintenance standpoint, it becomes very easy for you to manage, which is the thought behind why Salesforce is moving away from profile in terms of permission, and everything will be managed in this way. However, oftentimes the business or the company you work for may have different requirements in terms of access. They may say in the case of opportunities, they may say an account executive needs to be able to create an opportunity record and be able to make changes. So make edit changes. So edit and read are basically, if you can edit, you can read, right? So they need to be able to create, read, edit, and see and have read, edit on most fields. They may say, but for a support person, they should only be able to read a record and not make any changes. So you may have a read-only access that you need to grant on opportunity for support. And that means they shouldn't be able to create neither, because there's no use case for this support person to create an opportunity record. So how would you go about solving that? And I will tell you, the popular way is you basically take this permission set, you clone it, and in that cloned one, you make changes to the permission set. So the object level setting, you would change it from create, read, edit to just read, and then you would strip away the edit access in that. And then you would then have to take the newly cloned permission set, assign it to support, and the current one, you keep it in account executive, right? So that's a very common use case. And in this case, it might be okay because it's just two groups of users, two permission sets, no big deal. But what if you start having different iterations of permissions, right? The company may tell you, oh, well, for this group of users, they need this. Then for that group of users, they need that. Maybe it's even different at a field level. So if you were to manage this in permission sets, then you're going to have a proliferation of permission sets, which is not the greatest idea from a maintenance standpoint and from a scalability standpoint. So I really urge you to think about that, because that is a very common use case. In my many years working as an admin and in consulting, that is something that always comes up, and it is always a pain to unwind. So I highly encourage you to think about that. And this comes the meat of this tutorial, which is, what can we do about it if you have a case of many permission sets? Or you might have to have many different permission sets if you don't have another solution. How do you manage granting different level of access to users without having a proliferation of permission sets? And the answer to that is actually in the permission set group itself. There is a setting called, or a feature called muting permission set in group. So before I talk about that, let's talk about combined permissions, right? So within a permission set group, Salesforce allows you to look to see what is the combined level of permissions in your permission set group. So in our case, we only have one permission set, but in real life, you may have 10, 15 different number of permission sets in the permission set group. And it is really cumbersome to have to click into every permission set to see what is the level of access. So what this combine permissions allows you to do is click into this object settings, and you are able to see a combined view of access that this permission set group has based on all of the permission sets that are a part of this group. So it's kind of like parent-child, right? This permission set group is a parent. It has one child or many children of permission sets. And based on this view, you can click into any object. So in our case, I want to go into opportunity. I can see what my level of access is. And this, because I'm in the combined view, I actually can't edit because it just tells me what it is, right? So at a glance, I can see, okay, based on all the permissions I have, this is what I can do as an account executive user. If I'm assigned to this permission set group, here's my level of access for this object and these fields. Right? And so it's powerful, so you don't have to click into every single one of them. So in that case, if you have multiple permissions that are touching the same object and fields, is the additive sum of all the permissions that's been granted, which is really powerful and great. And that's great, but what if this is too much? How do you then figure out how to strip away access, right? And I would say before the rolling out of muting permission sets, really security is always additive. So it's if I grant you a permission set and another permission set, I grant you more access for the same object, you're going to get more access because you're assigned to, it's the permission set that gives you the most that wins, right? So we think of security as it's a funnel. You open it up, you don't take away, you like open up. But with the concept of muting permission set, it actually is the opposite. It allows you to strip away access. So let me show you. So in permission set group, there is the muting permission set in group. And the way you go about creating it is you click into that muting permission set in group. I can click new. And right away, Salesforce gives me a naming convention, account executive muted, or whatever the name of the permission set group. It appends muted to the end. I'm going to keep it. And now I have this permission set in this group. And now, if keep in mind, if I click into permission sets, I won't actually see that in here. And that's because a muting permission set is managed differently than regular permission sets. So a muting permission set is only applicable for that permission set group that it is created under, and that's it. So I have to actually go into the account executive permission set group and click muting permission set in group to see if I have one. If I don't have one, I could create one like I did. And if I already have one, then it doesn't let me create another one. So there's only ever one, which is kind of nice. And if I click into this account executive muted, this is where the power comes in. I can go into any of these and decide how I want to mute. So in my case, I'm not muting anything for account executive because I want my account executive to have access to everything, but I want my support person to not have certain things. So what that means is I can go into the permission set group for support, and I can do the same thing. Okay, but before I do, I want to show you as a support user what my level of access is, and we'll come back to this and we'll look at the difference. So I'm logged in right now as this. Sorry. A second. Let me fix this. Okay, guys, I'm back. I ran into a problem earlier because I couldn't, as an admin, log in as a user, and I forgot I didn't get to enable the login as any user permission as an admin. So now I am logged in as a support user, and I want to show you in my permission set. Earlier, I had enabled a support user I granted the opportunity to create, read, edit access. So as a support user, I can create an opportunity from this view. Obviously, this has not been configured, so it's probably going to look very clunky. But now I will show you. So as you can see, a support user is able to create a standard opportunity record. Now, I will go to the back end and go to my support permission set group. And just to show you, what I did was I made sure my support user was added to this permission set group. In my permission set group, I had, as a recap, one permission set. I can go to muting permission set, and I didn't already create one, so let's do one real quick. I created one for the account executive earlier. So now that I've done that, I can go into the support muted permission set. If I go to object settings, and I go to opportunities, and I click edit, keep in mind now, look, I actually have additional features. This muted, I can mute the tab from being available. I can mute the object level. I can say I'm going to mute create because I don't want them to create. I don't want them to edit. I want them to be able to read though. And also muted modify all, even though I didn't have modify all. It muted that option. And then I have the ability to mute certain read access or edit access at the field level, so which is really cool. So I'm gonna, but obviously your object level supersedes. In this case, I'm just gonna save it. So now that's the moment of truth. Let's go back, log in as a support user, and see what happens. If I go to the sales console, earlier I had gone to the opportunity related list. So it's still letting me create, so let's see. Okay. This is a perfect opportunity for us to troubleshoot to see what happened. The muting permission set didn't work. Maybe I need to mute the field level as well. Let's try. See, this is real life. It happens. Even I sometimes do this. I'm muting all of them, so they should only have read. I will mute all the field from being edited because I don't want them to have to, but they can should be able to read. See if that makes a difference. Go back to the sales app. Okay. So for some reason, this user can still create. I think there's probably more access at the profile level that's granting access. But one thing you could tell is I no longer could edit the fields. So our muting permission set did work for the object. So it did work. Let me go ahead and look into why the object level hasn't been revoked. So let me pause my video and I'll resume once I figure it out. Okay, I'm back. So what I realized earlier is I still had create access on the profile. So I think I was troubleshooting and I was adding it back to the profile because I couldn't log in as a user. So I thought there was a thing where on the profile I needed to still grant access. But anyway, just to show you, I can no longer create as a support user. However, I can still read and I can still view details. I just don't have the ability to edit or create. And if I go back to the backend, just as a recap, in my permission set, permission set group, if I go into a support, I have this muting permission set. And a muting permission set in a way, if I go into object settings and I go to opportunities, it actually gives me a combined view as well. So it's actually going to tell me here what the combined view is. And so kind of like the common permissions set section. But obviously it's similar in a way that it gives me the combined level of access defined as a part of this permission set group based on all the permission sets. But it also is similar in that I can't make changes directly, but I have the ability to mute. And just to show you, right, on the profile level, I do not. So if you have it on the profile level, like I did momentarily ago, because I was trying to figure out, I thought my support user didn't have access to the sales app. So I was trying to do some things. If you have it at the profile level, which I found out just now, which in this case, I don't. But earlier I had granted the object level here. If you do have it on the profile level, but you don't have it at the permission set level, and you add that permission set to the, I'm sorry, if you don't have it, if you have it at the profile level, but somehow also have a permission set with the same or similar access defined for that object, you add that permission set to a group, but then you create a muted permission set in that group, muting those certain permissions. It doesn't mute what's in the profile. So that's an important distinction because it just happened to me. If I have it on, watch what happens. If I have it on the profile, just to show you, because I literally just went through this when I paused the video. If I have create here, so this is the, oh, sorry, this is the sales profile. I meant to go to the support. If I go to the support profile, and I go to object settings, and I go to opportunities, know how there is no access, right, for create, because that's what we did. We stripped it. But if I add it back, create, now if I go as a support user, I all of a sudden can create again. So muting permission set only mutes what's in the permission set group and not what's in the profile. So before you implement this, the takeaway is make sure whatever permission you're defining in the permission set group is not also already granted to user at the profile level for users that are assigned to that permission set group. Make sure of that, because muting does not mute all permissions, it just mutes what's in that group. So I had to go through this myself a little bit to learn as well. So I hope you found this to be helpful. If you have any comments for me, please leave it in the comment sections down below. And I hope you subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Thank you.